So I'm so happy to be here, but that's another topic. But such a beautiful Gompa. So, I worked so much. Part of my, I guess, lineage, being an FPMT is what was offering service. Can everyone hear and understand my Scottish accent? Yeah. Um, so I spent so many years working and living at Rimshi's house. Rimshi had two personal residencies, one in Aptos and in the Santa Cruz area, and another one in Washington State. So I was like immersed in the altar for 13 years, taking care of all Rimshi's altars. And so I guess what I feel like partly what I try to offer back is trying to, for some of us, it can be quite hard in the beginning to connect with the holy objects. What do they mean? Sometimes we come in and think, oh, that's just something to worship. So I feel like part of my role is to try and help people to blend with their meditation practice the kind of feeling and importance and the inspiration that one can get from the holy objects. And we feel that when we come into the room. Yeah, it's because of many teachers being here, but also because all these holy objects embody an energy quality. So that's part of what I tried when I got part of my role, I feel. So, when we put her, and also Lama Zopa Rinpoche, spent so long educating us in these ways and trying to encourage us to develop habits around, there's this key term, mindfulness, that's very popular now. So in this tradition, what we try to do, which everyone's already doing quite nicely, mostly, is have the mindfulness when we come in and we see holy objects to put our palms together. That's very easy. Deep meditation, not easy. Put your palms together at your heart, easy, yeah? So generally speaking, stairs, so of course, if you're not comfortable, that's okay. But so much effort and energy put in to have this beautiful altar, this beautiful place. It's, all holy objects all around. So when I worked at Rinpoche's house, sorry, this is going on. If you need to sit down, it's okay for a minute. One of the things Rinpoche does do was when people visited around with incense, Rinpoche's walls were full, wasn't it? So who had the opportunity to visit Shankar? And like this is full, but everything was completely full. Space, right? So when people came, the meditation was going round with incense to all the holy objects like that, with your palms together offering incense. So that was how important Rinpoche felt that was so important, that practice. So let's put our palms together as the beginning of our practice, our meditation, our being here, to kind of inspire our minds, palms together at the heart. The heart is where we want the spiritual realizations, insights to kind of come, to arise from. We really want them to go from the head to the heart. So this brings an energy to the heart when we put our palms together, making an aspiration to develop left hand signifying the wisdom aspect of the path, or Dhammakaya, left side of the body, right side of the body, embodying our kind of compassionate nature, for that to be developed more into, fully developed compassion for all sentient beings, or what we call the Rupakaya, the form aspect of the Buddhas. And in our inside, like Chenrezig has in the statue, we're holding a wish-fulfilling jewel, because we want to be wish-fulfilling for all sentient beings. That's the goal of the spiritual path, to fulfill all the deepest wishes and aspirations, which actually is enlightenment, to fulfill that for all beings. So that's what the mudra kind of means. So just thinking about that a minute, developing some aspiration around that for yourself, to that ripen in your heart and the heart of all beings. Then we do this mantra, Om Namo Manjushri. But if you don't know it, just imagine you're prostrate. And if you can't prostrate, we just do like this. The palms going to the body, speech and mind, the crown, the throat and the heart. Do that 3 times. And if you are prostrating, then of course we do the physical prostration, but we imagine light and nectar as it is. You know, when our mind's pure, there's light and nectar always coming for the Buddhas, always inspiring us, lifting up our mind, awakening our Buddha nature. That's always happening. So we want to really experience that all the time. So this is one way to do that, you know, always connecting with the holy objects, always reminding ourselves that this is our spiritual journey to achieve what they embody. Om Namo Manjushri Namah Shri Nama Uttama Nama Uttama Om Namo Manjushri Namah Shri Nama Uttama like that. This way? No. The other way? Yes, yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Okay.
So we'd like to offer a mandala offering. And we have a new team up here, and we are offering these holy objects in our gratitude to Venerable Angie on behalf of all Mother Sentient beings.
Can be in training for the real lamas coming. Yeah, it's okay. We're in training.
Ajipuki Jushin Meto Tramira Jinji Nide Genpa Kata Di Sangye Jindu Miteu.
The throat, I can't reach it.
Da Jina Choparsho. O holy and perfect pure Lama, from the clouds of compassion that form in the skies of the Dharmakaya wisdom, please release a rain and vast crown Dharma precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be.
At your top knot. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to do some preliminary prayer. They're on the screen, that's right, refugee. So why we offer mandala offering, and actually just to mention, I've made a video of how you offer mandala offering. I have a video of how you do that as well, so we'll make sure we can send it to you as well, but very good. Yeah. Um, so why we offer a mandala, it's really for you, you know, and why we do prayers is to kind of set our mind in the right place for practice, you know, to hear the teachings. It's not so much about me, you know, certainly it's not about me, but it's to create merit, and which I'm going to speak about as well, because there's also a mandala offering that we'll do again together during this, during the preliminary prayers. But it's all about, as many of us know, you know, some of us have been coming here for some time. So these prayers just to help set our mind so we become kind of, you know, more and more receptive to the teachings. They can touch our hearts. So it doesn't matter what I say, but from your side, somehow, well, it does matter to an extent, you know, but from your side, you're able to, through doing these prayers and certain practices, whatever you hear, you know, spiritual teachings, the truth, you know, when you hear the truth, it somehow touches your heart, you know, it's creating this cause for our spiritual to energy, our spiritual insights and realizations to grow and develop. So we start with refuge. So let's just take a couple of minutes to settle in to the chair, the cushion. Bring to mind your motivation for coming here. What comes up kind of naturally in the mind when we think about our intention for coming. So again, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, my teacher, our teacher, if we're coming here, especially those if have come for some time, you know, some of us met Lama Zopa Rinpoche when he came in 2017. Some of us had heard his teachings, maybe online. But either way, you know, just by the merit of being here, we're kind of an object. We've become an object to Rinpoche's prayers, you know, these high-level beings who have developed bodhicitta. You know, we all become, you know, their minds are so vast. Compassion is so vast that they're able to somehow touch many, many beings, not just in a broad way, a general way, but also very personally, you know. They're able to sort of really personalize their prayers for each and every being, you know. So we are here because of our own merit and also because of the prayers and the activities of these beings like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, the Buddhas, the holy beings, His Holiness Lama Yeshe. You know, that karmic connection is alive through us and through their prayers that they made for us, are making for us, continue to make for us on our spiritual journey. So through the center, through the teachings, you know, these prayers come alive in our experience. As we absorb the teachings more, they become alive in us. their aspirations for us, along with our spiritual aspirations, just grow more and more. Ideally, this is how it works. So when we do refuge prayer, we're taking refuge in our enlightened nature. Our ability to go beyond who we are now, how we perceive ourselves right now, our karmic limitations. Taking refuge in a mind, a being, qualities that we aspire to. So what do we aspire to be? What do we see in the Buddhas, the teachers, beings who inspire us that we want to become? You have to keep touching in with your spiritual aspirations. So imagine all beings around us. We all want happiness. It's the basis of the spiritual teachings. We have a desire for happiness. We don't want any kind of suffering or challenge or problem, but yet they come, right? Because we're not fully developed. We haven't developed all the qualities of the mind that liberate us from our day-to-day and deeper levels of suffering and problem. So we take refuge in that which is free of problems, which embodies peace, joy, the full development of wisdom and compassion. Every time we take refuge, we take a further step in that journey. And we take all beings with us, ideally, with the bodhicitta motivation, like we have all of us here. And we just spread that out to as many beings as vast as space, like grains of sand in a vast ocean, feeling them all around us and all seeking this deep spiritual refuge and inspiration from being here, the gurus, Buddhist bodhisattvas, your spiritual teachers, feeling their presence, inspiring us as we recite the prayer. We'll do once in Tibetan, twice in English. Sangye chodan sogi chognam la janchu bardu dagi kyapsu chi dagi chunyin ge be sonam ge jola penchir sangye dru parsho. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Then we offer again the mandala. I didn't realize we have that, or no? If not, that's okay. Or we do Shakyamuni mantra. Who's on? Oh, there we go. Okay, let's do that then. So again, feeling, John, main inspiration, comes all the way back to Shakyamuni Buddha. This is the mantra here of Shakyamuni Buddha. So as we see in the image here, we try and feel the presence of this beautiful golden body on lotus, sun, and moon cushion of Shakyamuni Buddha, just emanating like the brilliance of the sun, just like we see the sun in this clear skies of Santa Fe. Like that, the Buddha illuminates our mental consciousness right now, his presence. Try and feel that presence. Golden hue. Fully awake. Muni Muni. And the mantra Muni means sage. So as a sage, we feel like sages have a deep spiritual wisdom. That's what we associate with that feeling, sage. I think we all appreciate that the Buddha embodies a deep spiritual wisdom. So when we recite this mantra, we're trying to awaken that deep spirituality, that innate wisdom that we all have, beyond kind of conceptual, a little bit more beyond our conceptual thought. There's 3 levels of wisdom that we develop in our spiritual path: listening, wisdom through hearing or listening, wisdom through meditation, wisdom through reflection, contemplation, and wisdom through meditation. Through meditation is when the real deep innate wisdom awakens. But we need all 3 to hear correctly the teachings, contemplate them more in an analytical manner, and then they need to ripen and really go into the heart, become our experience, our realization, our wisdom. So when we chant the mantra, we're requesting and we're imagining that we develop and receive from the Buddha through golden light these 3 levels of wisdom. So let's just do a few mantras, feeling that the golden light's coming through our crown and awakening us these 3 levels of wisdom, deepening and enriching within us these 3 levels of wisdom. Ayada o mune mune maha munaye soha. Tayada 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 o mune mune maha munaye soha. Okay. Recognizing a few faces. So anyway, it's nice to be back. It's great to be back. It's amazing to be back. Wow. The center exploded. So beautiful here, isn't it? So nice. Anyways, I heard I was introduced a little bit in the beginning, so I was expecting to do that, but that was very sweet to do that. Yeah, I lived here for, I think it was just over 2 years. I had to leave for a while because I had a visa situation, but I was here for almost 2 years, so I met quite a few of you, but there's quite a lot of new faces as well, which is lovely. Yeah, I served as SPC, so I was used to being there, not there, here. And I was here actually when Geshe Sherab and I, is this everything okay? Yeah. 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 Oh, there's a Zoom as well. Okay. I was here. No. No worries. I was here when actually Geshe Sherab kind of arrived as the resident teacher. We were both getting visas at the same time, and so we arrived at the same time. And I still see Geshe quite often because I live at Vajrapani Institute now. As I mentioned, just as a wee introduction about who I am, I served, a lot at a few centres, but also I worked at Lama Zopa Rinpoche's houses for some years, and then. But then after Rinpoche manifested passing away, I moved to Vajrapani Institute. So that's a retreat center in California, in Boulder Creek, North California. So I'm living there now, and Geshe-la's come, I think, the last 3 years. I've been there to teach. So I meet him a lot. So anyway, it's very nice to be here when Geshe-la first arrived, and it's great to see some of the familiar faces. How many of us come quite often to class? Do you mind putting your hands up so I can just get a sense? Yeah. Is anybody here for the first time? All right. And somebody else comes sometimes. I guess the rest, yeah. Okay. Um, anyway, you get a lot of teachers here. Very fortunate. So I was like, wow, I'm doing the Sunday class. I was like, what am I going to do? You know, you have a lot of teachings, different teachers coming in person, you know, Geshe Zopa, anyway, Venerable Rubina, you know, many, many great teachers. So I think many of us have heard a lot, you know, here. I mentioned the three wisdoms, wisdom of hearing, contemplation, and meditation. I think they get progressively harder, as you can imagine. So yeah, I thought, oh, you have so many teachers here. What could I possibly say that you haven't heard before? You know, so I thought in that vein, of course, the topic I'm going to teach is just dipping a little bit. Sorry. Dipping a little bit into, that's still working. Don't know, maybe I need to put it under my glasses or something. Or you can just bend it around. Okay. Oh yeah, you can move it around. Okay, great. Well, that helps. Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. Didn't know. I wasn't sure I could bend it all. Right. We're still hearing? No. So yeah, I thought, oh gosh, what can I do to teach that all these other teachers haven't taught probably very well before? So I thought, and as I say, this class is going to be on the three principles, but today's kind of more of an introduction. So what I thought to start with actually is, as I mentioned a little bit, just introducing or kind of reminding us of the purpose of prayers, you know, why we recite refuge prayer, you know, what our relationship, trying to always connect more and more, blend more and more our meditation practice with these, you know, all these incredible holy objects here, with our own practice, inner practice, you know, with our, maybe our altar that we have at home, you know, trying to make it, because these are really tools for our spiritual practice, tools for our meditation. They're not so much objects to be worshipped, you know, they support our meditation practice. And before we really develop what we call our inner temple, you know, we do need we need to work, you know, work with the outer temple as well, you know, that helps to support the inner temple. You know, these holy objects, we make beautiful water bowl offerings here. All of that kind of helps to nurture and support in many ways, maybe more than we think, you know, the inner temple. So, so what to start was, you know, just trying as I go through this to relate the teaching, the three principles, and how we can use these objects to kind of help support our kind of experience of what we're going to go into next week as the three principles of the path. But first, as I say, because, oh wow, we have a big group online. Because, yeah, I think at the beginning of, we're part of this lineage of teachings, and actually Lama Zopa Rinpoche himself, many of us might know, he was a great Kadam master, you know, a master of the teachings, pure practitioner, someone who really practiced what we're going to go over, the three principles, and also Lojong practice. Some of us have quite a lot of teachings on Lojong practice. So he was a pure master of that, you know, and actually many times, you know, I was quite fortunate to be at teachings with Rinpoche quite many times, and I would think, some of these teachings are quite basic. What could Rinpoche be getting from this, you know? Because he's a master already, you know? So Rinpoche would invite his teachers to come and teach in certain centres, you know, and often Rinpoche would come and attend the teachings too. And of course, not that they're basic in a way, but I thought, well, you know, with somebody, and even, you know, this practice of Rinpoche emphasising putting his palms together at the altar when you come in. And there was this, you know, Rinpoche at a certain point in his life, if you don't know Lama Zopa Rinpoche, 12 years before he passed away, we say manifested a stroke, you know, he had a stroke. And he was in the hospital for I think some weeks, you know. And during that time, I heard that he wrote a letter to the Dalai Lama, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, expressing that, not so much like what was wrong and sick, and not that it didn't go into any of that, you know, expressing his kind of or sadness, or feeling sad, or like at the moment, because of the stroke, he can't put his palms together for prayers. So you think, but you know, Rimshi's already, you know, if Rimshi walked into this room, the whole room's like lit up, the whole place, the whole Santa Fe gets lit up almost, you know. So it's like, wow, these very, you know, it's like these simple, what we think is something quite, you know, we put our palms together. It must be quite a profound practice, because these holy beings are doing it. And always when you see beings are like really, you know, great practitioners, when they come in, they'll immediately connect with the altar. They'll look well at the holy object. I mean, they spend time on what we think might not be so important as sitting on a cushion and meditating. You know, so, and these are things we can do, you know, because sitting on the cushion is not easy for long periods of time, you know. So just, I feel like, you know, I was like, I used to always think like that. Well, they must be quite important, you know. And of course, people come to Rimshi's house and we go around and we do these things. So not, and Rimshi would often say, you know, when we wake up in the morning, if we have an altar, even if we have two images, an image of the Buddha, and do we just, you know, we're busy in our life. Some of us are busy, some of us are retired, but maybe we're even busy in our retirement. I don't know. We get busy, you know. But, you know, just to spend that extra 30 seconds putting your palms together, think about that. If these holy beings are doing that, then what about me, you know? And I can do that. And I think it does. It influences our mind. It's planting these seeds. It's putting in the container of our minds, just filling us up step by step, which has been my experience over the years. It does. It fills you up step by step, and you slowly get an appreciation of how much they influence your mind, and you start to feel actually quite connected to your Buddhas there, your images out there, you know. You feel like they're giving you some energy. They start to come alive, because that's what we want our spiritual practice, always to feel alive, not kind of dried up and starting to get sad and starting to, you know, we need a lot of life and inspiration for our spiritual practice. And that's one way we can really get that, you know, is just taking that moment to connect to our altar, the spiritual, you know, like that, you know, that can give more than you think for your day. And it's planting seeds and imprints all the time on the mental continuum. So that's why I spent a little bit of time in the beginning, because we have, and also none of us, does anybody have an altar like this at home? And me neither. So and it's incredible, you know. So just even when you come in, if you've got a few minutes, come in and just take advantage of these beautiful holy objects that they've spent so much time and care to bring here to this center, you know. That beautiful stupa that we have in the altar there now, walk around a few times. It lights up the mind, you know. The more you do it, the more you start to feel and they become your friends, spiritual buddies, you know, spiritual sources. They really do, you know. When I go somewhere where there's none, I miss it. I miss not being able to circumambulate or just wake up when you see them. It's like that's what you want to see. That's your journey, the Buddha. Even if we're not taking refuge yet, we appreciate the Buddha has some qualities. If you weren't here, you wouldn't be here if you didn't think the Buddha has some qualities I would love. You know, that peace, you know, that compassion, the wisdom. We know he embodies these things. You know, people have the Buddha in their garden and their bookshelf and they're everywhere. He's more and more, especially in a place like Santa Fe, you know, there's an embracing, even if it doesn't become very deep, there's an embracing of the qualities the Buddha image even embodies. That's why people want it in their garden. So never mind for us how much more we can connect with the images, because we have some faith already. We have a level of conviction. I'm reading a story, this incredible biography of someone. There's many sort of biographies of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. But there's a recent one on the very good, Secret Visions of the Dalai Lama. We all want to read that one, you know. But actually, it's not so secret because it's this Geshe has followed His Holiness for so many years. You know, he knows his personality very well. He's followed the teachings. So he, you know, in doing that, you develop, you really get to know the personality of the Lama, the qualities, how they speak about, you know, sometimes they'll drop in some subtle hints about their qualities, who they are. Not often, but you need to peel out what they're trying to say there. So because he followed His Holiness for so long, he knows his personality, and he knows when His Holiness says this thing, he means that, but he also means this, but he's not going to say that directly, you know. So he pulls that out. So he's taken many situations where His Holiness will kind of drop in something about his quality or something like that. And some of them are quite obvious, but there's many stories in there about His Holiness, these are talking to him, the statues. Drop it. There's one where he goes to a Thai temple. He visits a Thai temple in Bodh Gaya in India. Bodh Gaya is the place where the Buddha achieved enlightenment. Some of you know. So there's many Buddhist lineages there, you know, from different countries. They all go there to celebrate the Buddha's life and enlightenment, and they build temples around there. So His Holiness was often invited to many of the temples of the other traditions, Buddhist traditions. So I think he was at the opening of I think it was a Thai tradition temple. They had invited His Holiness. And he talks about, you know, just a painting of the Buddha's popping out the wall and speaking to him. So we might not get that experience. Don't have too many hopes for that. But what it means is there's a life to these images. There's a life force there that we can connect to. You know, and I think the more this is why we make offerings, it's to draw forth the inspiration of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, their spiritual insights into our heart, and to feel like somehow we're always receiving teachings. You know, that's the best mind to have, isn't it? That spiritual awakeness. And that's what kind of the Kadam masters were an example of, going back to Lama Zopa Rinpoche's example of Rinpoche coming to even like what to me would appear the basic teachings, still profound, but Rinpoche would be there, you know. Rinpoche would be offering his mandala to the gurus, you know, for like the preliminary Lamrim teachings. And I was like, just think, but Rinpoche must know, you know, he's definitely got those. So where that's bringing me to is, well, what could I share today is how do we keep that mindset, you know, how do we keep that? And at the very beginning, the kind of how you make your mind ready, how you always have this openness, is they use this example of the 3 pots, how to come to the teachings, being like the 3 pots. I'm just going to put one. So we're like a vessel for the teachings. Yeah, we could say that. We're trying to have our mind like this vessel for the teaching. But there's 3 ways that you want to avoid. And again, I'm mentioning this because, first of all, the example of Lama Zopa Rinpoche taking, being able to somehow, everything becomes a Dharma teaching or transformed into the Dharma. And then another level, when we think about this, it helps us to not get an insensitivity and feel like, oh, I've heard that before. You know, it doesn't touch our mind. So everything feeling like, oh, there's a spiritual insight, even though I've heard that many times, I'm getting a wisdom through reflecting on that more. I'm going to develop my wisdom through meditating on that more. Because there's 3 types of wisdom: listening, reflecting, and meditating. Does that make sense? It does, doesn't it? It's common sense, really, you know. We all do that. We all meditate on different things, I think, all the time. We reflect on different things and we get a wisdom through that. So similarly, for spiritual insights, we need that. So how do we always listen well, you know, hear, so it becomes more of a reflection and a meditation? Is, first of all, not being a pot. So the ideal pot is one that's kind of upright, you know, open all the time, being a vessel to hear, not cracked. and kind of clean, you know. So the opposite of those are we ever kind of like a little bit more of a upside down vessel? Oh, I've heard this before. I don't need to hear that again. Thinking or kind of like distracted a little bit, half asleep or something like that. So when we come into the Gompa, maybe we can think, okay, I'm, you know, keeping that, like, I'm not going to be upside down. I'm going to try and be as, you know, open as possible, you know, like that. Or when we go into our Zoom class, you know, I'm not going to be the upside down pot. And again, this is always taught at the beginning of a sort of traditional this is one of the parts they teach at the beginning of traditional Lamrim teaching, how to be the right kind of vessel, not being upside down. And again, that's even in just in our daily life, you know, or as I say, going to the altar, you know, being awake and open to the spiritual quality that these beings, these Buddhas embody, you know, being open to that. Not being cracked or leaky. This is a wee bit harder, yeah. Stuff going like this, in there and out there, you know, or in there and I don't know where else, somewhere else, you know. That's a wee bit harder, you know, but I think if we still are open, even though we can't retain everything, because we're open and we have a little bit of faith or conviction, it goes in, we plant spiritual seeds. Yeah, that again, you hear it again, say, oh yeah, I heard that the last time. And I don't remember it, but I remember hearing it now. And maybe that can go in a little bit deeper level, on that level of reflection, because I've heard it 2 or 3 times, I understand the meaning. So now I can sort of like go into a wee bit more reflection with that. So not completely, everyone's just leaking out, trying to like have this sense of holding. And again, I think this is what this energy does in the Gompas, in the meditation rooms. It helps us to hold something when we leave, you know, some part, some essence. When we make the mandala offering at the start here, that we did here, and I don't know, with Geshe-la, did you often do the mandala before the teaching as well, most sessions? With Geshe, depends on, yeah. So, yeah, so when you do make the mandala offering, what it means is, may I take the essence of this teaching? May I, my mind, you're not going to hold every word, everything, but can I take something essential for my spiritual path, from my awakening from that teaching? That's kind of what it means. So that's often why we offer that. Again, Lama Zopa Rinpoche would actually come to the teachings with his gurus, with his mandala set. You know, there's a set you have that you offer. I think Geshe Zopa offered teachings on the mandala, yeah? How many of us were able to attend some of those teachings? Yeah, so I was going to do that this morning, but we'll do it next week. So just to, again, those of us who want to develop more, you know, go more deeply into these teachings, that's a really nice practice to be able to offer the mandala. Because what you're doing by offering something, a part of yourself, then you're able to something that opens up, again, space to receive, something to go more deeply on the level of reflection and meditation. And then the other one that we don't want to be is a kind of like a pot that's contaminated, you know. So we're coming a lot with like our own ideas, or of course some of our ideas are great, you know, but some of that needs to be cleaned away. Some of it's not helpful. Some of our ideas, some of our concepts, you know. So being open to maybe having to clean some of that up. And actually, the more we study the Dharma and Buddhism in our mind, we see there's a lot that needs cleaned up, right? We all need something cleaned up, you know? So being open to the idea that we're going to have to clean stuff when we hear the teachings, you know? We're going to have to readjust our concepts. But still being investigative, still using our wisdom, not just like letting everything go in and there's no analysis, there's no investigation. So we're always applying that all the time, you know? But not just being like closed and there's not much or do like that. So trying to always have that openness. Because as I say, I think many things I might say here, some of you have heard many times before, but if we hear it again and again and again, because I also attend, you know, I've attended many Lamrim teachings over so many years. But I notice if I go in with that, not like, oh, I've heard that already, but just like, oh, I wonder if I can hear that in a new way, in a different way. Or even if I've heard it, can it go a wee bit deeper in my spiritual practice, you know? Can I know that in a different way, feel that in a different way. So I guess that's why I wanted to say that in the beginning, because you might have heard a lot of I've said already. So it's more about hearing, feeling, experiencing things more and more deeply, more and more clearly. That's what, because sometimes people come to centres for 2 or 3 years and they're like, okay, I've been there and done that. That can happen, you know, and that's not really the purpose, you know. And many of your well, as I say, you have many teachings here. Many of your teachers say things similar, hopefully, a little bit different ways, hopefully, so we hear it differently. But it's not to lose that freshness. We want to feel that the teachings become fresh, are always fresh, you know, in our mind, you know, we're freshly inspired. So doing the prayers and thinking about being the pot that's upright and we're not totally clean, but we're fresh, we're open to the teachings. And also we have these bowls here. I just wanted to mention that because some of us might see these water bowls here and wonder what that is. And I also I also did, this was one of my main purification practices. So we all have we all have different purification practices. So one of my main ones was doing at Lama Zopa Rinpoche's house, all these bowls, you know, doing many water bowl offerings. And that was a way, again, to purify and collect merit. And there's many benefits to it. But when we apply it here, who does the water bowl offerings here? Quite a few people, Leah. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So it's wonderful, you know, because you can apply that here as well. I mean, when we do water bowls, and again, that has been my experience through doing so many, any kind of purification practices, you know, like what are we really doing here? Well, we're cleaning the vessel air, right? When we empty them, we're cleaning. So even how many of us have water bowls on our altar at home? Yeah. So it's it's a very nice, again, many of us know why we do it, but sometimes we just get up and we do it and we don't, you know, think sometimes, you know. So again, it's a practice the whole purpose of these is to make our mind keep fresh for the teachings. So we absorb more, like water's absorbent, you know. We want to absorb more and more deeply the teaching so our mind becomes more wholesome, more pure, more in line with the Buddha's mind, you know. So when we clean the bowls, again, we're cleaning the mind, so we become like this upright, this clean vessel, you know, for the teachings. We become really clean and clear, and we're able to absorb then as the water's absorbent, it's clear. We want to absorb and be clear in our spiritual practice as much as possible. Because even if we can't do a lot because we're busy working or whatever, you know, we have busyness in our life, but just bite-sized chunks of practice, we want it to be clear. We want to be able to absorb it, just even if we have 10 minutes for practice every day. So actually what these water bowls, what that's doing is that whole practice is supporting our mind to be like that. So we can, the vessel of our mind can be clear. We can get filled up with the clarity of the teachings, kind of the nectar of the teachings, you know, filled up with the qualities of wisdom and compassion. May I be a vessel for that. You know, always awake, always inspired. You know, sometimes we're not, then we just make an aspiration, but sometimes we are, and that's great. But remind it, you know, we're not always going to be like that all the time, you know, our minds are up and down. But when we offer these, it's creating a cause, you know, a condition for our mind to always be like that, to be absorbing the teachings, to really get a joy and a benefit out of the teachings, get filled up with that. So I thought we'd just start with that. Remind ourselves of the purpose of why this is all here, so we feel more connected all the time with the meaning and the purpose of everything here is a meaning and a purpose to inspire our own spiritual practice and development. It's not to promote us being a Buddhist center. It's for our spiritual nourishment and inspiration. That's important to feel that. Start to feel and connect to that all these are inspiring and nourishing my spiritual path. And to try to start, you know, slowly start to feel a closeness with all this and meaning of this, you know, how it's inspiring our mind. Because our mind needs a lot of inspiration, right? It's not easy to stay inspired, you know. to develop some of these qualities that we hear about in the teaching. So we need to be skillful, and we need outer methods. We need the outer temple to slowly work and build this inner temple, these inner qualities. So even when we offer that mandala offering that we did in the beginning, the other thing a mandala is a depiction. It's a depiction of the universe. It's like a Buddha land. It's like the outer temple that we want to become. Like this, we want our mind inside, the mandala of our own mind, to become pure, enlightened, a beautiful place for ourselves and others. You know, we want our mind to be a beautiful environment that everybody soaks up and absorbs and enjoys, you know. That comes from our mind, from our heart. So when we offer the mandala, it's like, may the mandala, the experience, my inner environment become so beautiful that it inspires all sentient beings. Like when you're in the presence of His Holiness, Dalai Lama, even if you go to Nepal and India, you go to some holy places, or as I say, when Lama Zopa Rinpoche comes, that mind that being has, it affects everybody. And all of us affect who we're with, you know. But that level of mind can touch so many people, you know. That's because that inner mandala that Rinpoche's created becomes an outer mandala for everyone else, like this center. This center came from the inspiration of His Holiness, Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I mean, it was founded because I think this Ajna went to Nepal, and he did a course. Our mother said we have our main place is Nepal, where everything started, what we call the motherland. Everything was born from there, you know, in a sense, you know. All the centers were born from it because people went there in the early days to do a course, all the hippies. Many hippies went to Nepal and India. Then they found Lama Yeshe and Rinpoche, who founded Kopan. And then after that, so many Westerners went there and did courses, you know. And then, so all these centers, most of them were inspired out of their inspiration they received there at Kopan with Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So it's like the mandala of their minds, Lama Yeshe and Lama, that they created, has created this outer mandala. This outer, we have a beautiful center at Vajrapani that was founded by Lama Yeshe. It's the second oldest center in the organization. So I know that you had your 25-year anniversary last year. That's exciting. We're going to have our 50th anniversary next year. Yeah, I wasn't around for the beginning. But yeah, we're going to have that. So about 25 years is incredible. So it's like we think about it, well, the mandala, their mind, their inspiration, the Pure Land that they created in their hearts now creates over 100 centers, projects, organization that are benefiting sentient beings. Not without hardship, not without difficulty, but that's what they're creating, you know. So we think about it when we offer a mandala. I want to create what is my future? What do I want to create for others? That's what you put in the mandala. And not just, but it has to start inwardly a lot first. We have to chip away at the junk on the inside the vessel, because we've not got pure mandalas yet. So just that's really what we're offering that, because that's what I want to become. And then, you know, ideally, we'll be able actually to offer something like really, really big and amazing. And we're all offering something right now, for sure, you know. But it's having a kind of vast view in our spiritual practice as well. You have the day-to-day view, chipping away. And then you have the vaster view, when we offer something like a mandala. I want to be off in my future incarnations, my future streams of consciousness, whoever they are, who do I want to be? Who do I want to become for others, you know, better and better. And we're chipping away at that, who we're becoming in all these practices. So our spiritual practice is a focus now, what we have to work on now, and also some like long distance, where do I, you know, long distance plan. We all had retirement plans, right? I think most of us. Well, in terms of the Buddhist tradition, we also need a future life plan. What's our plan for enlightenment? Retirement plans we see that's really clear, really obvious at most of us. At a certain point, certainly when you get to your 40s or 50s, you're like, I don't need a retirement plan. I can feel old age chipping away, knocking on my whatever back door or shoulder, whatever. So we see that. But then what we want to get deeper insight into is this kind of Buddha nature that we have. That goes a bit deeper, What's our long-term plan? We are Buddha nature. We are mind. We are consciousness. The basis of our enlightenment. Where real happiness comes, not just our saltwater happiness in this life. That's, to some level, that's important. We need a level of comfort. We need stuff, because we have a body. But really what we need as well, a plan with the body, but we need a plan with the mind. We need an enlightenment plan, future life plan. Because we have this continuity consciousness, right? This ancient part of yourself, deep part of yourself, intuitive part of yourself, when we're really tuned in, that needs care as well. It needs a plan, needs a goal. We need to take that somewhere. That is going somewhere, for sure. It's with us, and it's going to carry on. Not in like a sense of like who we are right now, not in an Angie way, but it's going to carry on based on what we put in the vessel of our lives this life. How we take care of the vessel of this life. What we're putting in, we are actions of body, speech, and mind. So we have to keep asking ourselves that. I've been in the dark, I've been a nun almost 30 years. Doesn't matter how long you've been ordained, how long you're practicing, you have to go back. There's bodhicitta, emptiness, and all that nice stuff. But I find like now that my teacher's not here, in real life, in the physical form, in this aspect, I have to think, okay, I need to really inspire myself now, I need to grow. I have to get really inspired because it's very easy just to get. It might look easy, we're nuns, we're monks, that all looks easy, but no. We have to, but yeah, it takes a lot of work. I met someone for lunch, a good friend. She was actually Rimshi's neighbour when I lived in Aptos. And at one point, she's gone through some hardships. At one point, she said to me, well, because it's easy being a nun. And I was like, interesting. First of all, grass is always greener on the other side, right? Your life's easier than mine. But that's the nature of delusion, because we all have stuff. Nobody doesn't have stuff. So, of course, as monastics, we have stuff. We're just taking responsibility. We're trying to take more responsibility for our stuff. Hopefully. Sometimes maybe some of us, I don't know how that's working for other monastics, but that's the purpose. It's just taking a time out from a lifetime of family and all that to work on our stuff more specifically and try and create that Buddha field for everybody, for others in future, maybe not this life, but in a few lifetimes away, ideally. So so I find that doesn't matter how long I've been in the Dharma, I have to go back to what's my plan. I have a continuity consciousness that only I am responsible for, really. And also my teacher's not there. I'm not able to see him in the same way every year or a couple of times a year. So I have to always go back to like bringing about a lot of inspiration in my own practice, because the delusions, unfortunately, they're not to be underestimated. When I first met the Dharma, I was in India, and I was just in my 20s and I became a nun, And I remember going to His Holiness the Dalai Lama's teachings. I was very fortunate because I lived where he lived. He lives in northern India, in Dharamsala. I mean, you've been traveling for a long time, but he's mostly based there now. And at that time, he was given an incredible amount of teachings. You know, it was just like normal. I mean, I was like so spoiled because at one point I went to one of my teachers and says, well, is it better to do retreat or go to the Dalai Lama's teachings? And he just went, you need to go to His Holiness's teachings. Because, you know, when something becomes normal, you forget how precious it is, you know. So I always remember he said that any opportunity you need to be around the Dalai Lama. I mean, he's an incredible being, you know. So, but you know, I was kind of like, oh, maybe I should just do retreat. He's like, oh, you need to go because now he's not teaching. You know, of course you can see him, but he's of an age where he can't teach a lot. So I remember going to a teaching, and you know, I probably don't remember much about all the teachings, but as I say, it goes in. But what I remember him saying, because you know, I was very engaged in being a new nun and being very inspired and doing a lot of purification. And then, you know, I'm going to get enlightened. You know, well, you have to feel like that, you know, right? So, and then His Holiness said one time, well, if you've been doing a practice for 10 years and you have a little bit less anger, that's very good. Keep going. And I was like, pardon? But, you know, I'm hoping to be halfway enlightenment by that time, you know, or something like that, you know. I mean, sort of bigger expectations, you know. So as I say, we can't underestimate the power of the delusions, but we also should have a lot of inspiration, gain a lot of inspiration from having our Buddha nature. You know, we can't just sit and beat ourselves up all the time either. You know? So very much when we go into the beginning of what we're doing, the foundations of the path, the three principles, the first two things really is like connecting what we call our precious human rebirth. We need to feel that our life is precious. Not like, I'm so precious, me, myself, and I, not that one. But the gift, you know, so again, some of us might be maybe not convinced about past and future lives, convinced about the continuity of consciousness. In fact, maybe I'm not convinced. I don't know. Am I convinced in my behavior, in my actions, the body, speech, and mind? I don't know, you know, I can get lazy, forget about future lives, definitely. But at least we have some sense, maybe, or we need to think about more. Do I have this deep innate part of me that doesn't die, goes on? You know, we need to keep questioning that. And as I say, even for me, I have to draw spiritual strength from that all the time. You know, I have this part of me that can become so much more than I am right now. And I need to keep chipping away at the stuff that's blocking that. You know, but the precious human rebirth, the kind, it's not really the part of the Lamrim per se, these three principles, it's like the igniting force to get us going with the other three. You know, and we can't really skip it because you think, oh yeah, I'll just skip to the next part. But then you skip that and then the mind gets a little bit like, I don't know, lazy, do. So myself included, it's like, okay, I have to wake up in the morning. As Venerable Rubina would say, be happy you're not dead yet, right? That's quite a package to think about, you know. Easier said than done, you know. And that takes a lot of dissecting. What do we mean, be happy you're not dead yet, you know? But it's a good phrase. But basically, precious human rebirth, yeah, connecting with what that means. You know, right now, what it means is, how do we, again, a little bit take the essence of that, think about that when we wake up in the morning. We have our roles and responsibilities in life and our busyness, but can we just, out of that, try and feel like our life is quite fortunate, value our human situation? I think that really is the first thought in the morning. That's what I'm trying to practice now every morning. Wake up, what's the first thought? I'm so lucky I'm still here. You know, I have this human situation. It's called the 8 freedoms and 10 richnesses. There's all this package around that, what that is, which we won't have time for all that. But I have this kind of freedom to be able to decide on what I'm doing with my consciousness, what I'm doing with my mind. I have these spiritual teachings that guide me what is the best way to work with my mind. So now can I use some of this day to put that into the vessel of this human rebirth, in the vessel in my consciousness, like filling up the bowls here, you know. And also a precious human rebirth, that teaching, it doesn't just mean like a human rebirth, being born as a human. That's great. But it means being born with certain conditions where we have an ability to practice, to work on our Buddha nature, to take responsibility for that. And think about a little bit, what are we doing with our minds now and in the future? You know, what's the plan? Because we have these incredible tradition coming from the East. Again, most of you don't have to go over there and spend 2-3 years, you know. Especially these days. Well, you could get Eastern teachings on here, you know, the teachers from the East can teach us for here. So it's kind of it's actually more like recognizing something that we have already, but just becoming aware, more and more aware of it, taking joy in that, taking an inspiration for that. So there's an analogy. How do we get to that? What do we mean by precious human rebirth? There's an analogy. Sometimes using analogies helps. So one analogy is, if we imagine all the infinite beings, like there's not just like the humans, but already we have like 7 billion in this world. 7 billion. Then there's all the animals. Again, on the basis of thinking about, they have consciousness, they have a form, they have a body, they have feelings. There's the animals on the earth. There's the animals in the air. There's the animals in the sea. I mean, we can't really fit in our minds how many that is. That's an infinite, huge amount. So just thinking about them, all the humans. And then, of course, there's many unseen beings in other realms that maybe are not hit on now. But even we think there's humans who have it going through. I mean, this is a hard time for our world right now. Yeah, there's a lot of war, torture. I mean, it's kind of always been in the human realm, but maybe we're just more aware of it because we can be, because with social media and all the technology we have, we're more aware of what's going on. You know, so we try, you know, we get a little bit depth and think all the beings and all the universe, you know, like here, just the beings we can see alone. If we imagine they're like all the earth particles, it's like, because we can't count all the animals. It's not possible. There's infinite amount of animals. So we think like, and compared to all the infinite particles of the earth, those beings who get a human, what we have, conditions, spiritual conditions, outer conditions in our lives, the precious human rebirth, those ones are like the amount of particles on the fingertip, on your thumb tip, you know, compared to all the amount of beings that are existing. You get that analogy? So that's what enlightened beings see. You know, they see that. They see us, we're a select group. Not because we're special so much, but because somehow we won the lottery in human rebirths. So we still have stuff, we still have problems, that's for sure, you know. But it's more about the freedom that our particular situation is giving us, spiritual freedoms, an ability to use our life, use our mind, use our spiritual nature, you know, our spiritual curiosity, our interest in Dharma and spiritual matters. We have a freedom to use that and deepen that and make this life and then the plan for our future consciousness to also be taken care of. So when I became a nun and I kind of figured out past and future lives, I figured out, okay, I think there is reincarnation. I thought, you know, not just like listening, but that reflection and meditation. I can't see my past lives. But when I became a nun and I kind of got to this point, I think one day I was really like, thank you so much, past lives. That's what I felt. You know, I've still got my junk and my stuff. I've still got work to do, but I had the condition of this precious human rebirth. A condition of like, oh, I must have planted some seeds to become a nun and to feel like the most important thing was the spiritual work this life. Now, I need to keep working on that motivation because it goes up and down, you know. But so like that, we all have that. We're not, maybe not monastics, but we all have the opportunity at every moment to practice Dharma, you know, momentarily. Again, it's not easy because our mind has stuff and we have responsibilities, but can we set aside bite-sized chunks of our life to devote to this vessel, this beautiful vessel that we've created for ourselves? You know, it's not just a regular pot that we're putting water into. It's a very precious situational, a precious pot that we've created. That's how the Buddhas see us. That's how they look, you know, and that's how we, so they see that with their awareness. We maybe not see and feel that totally, but we get some sense of that when you watch the news, you know. Rather than the news making you feel depressed, we can think, feel for these people, and does that inspire me to do some deeper spiritual work, chip away at the junk on my vessel? I've got this beautiful vessel, but it's not clean yet, you know? And can I keep cleaning it and filling it up with spiritual wisdom and insight? I have the center, I have a Sangha, we have great teachers, we have amazing teachers. You have amazing teachers all the time. Can I kind of keep, you know, with that teaching, with that knowledge, can I feel that deeper? And can that inspire me to really momentarily more and more use this precious human life with the vision of maybe not getting great spiritual insights this life, but putting drops of spiritual wisdom and insight into the bowl, the container in my life, the vessel in my life, the vessel in my heart. So like that, we all have to sort of meditate and try and think like that, you know, when you think about precious human rebirth. You know, as I say, there's 8 freedoms and 10 renunciations. So I'm just kind of condensing, distilling it down to a few. But there's one, Elaine Jackson, she's coming here in March. She just led a retreat recently at Vajrapani. And she gave a very inspiring kind of, again, she was inspiring people at the end of the retreat to find some space. Like there's always, maybe we can find a wee bit more space somewhere, you know, in our lives to devote to spiritual practice. Because she said in her first retreat, I mean, she was also a mother of 3 children. She worked, she was one of the founders of the centre. I don't know how she fitted all that in her life, but she did. And of course, she didn't have a lot of time as a mother to devote lots of time to her spiritual practice. But then she became, the kids grew up and she was still working. But then somehow it came to her that she could maybe, I think one of her teachers, spiritual mentors, suggested she try and do a 1-month retreat every year. And she was like, eh, how can I fit that in? Because she still, you know, she owned a copy shop, you know, you could photocopy and, you know, and you know, she's still, but anyway, so it was very inspiring because it's like, okay, so, but somehow it all came together. And so since that, what, 20 years or something, she's been doing a 1-month retreat. She's also done other retreats, but even when she was working, she managed to fit in this 1-month retreat. And she said the first time she ever did a 1-month retreat, alongside, I don't know, whatever practice she was doing, like tarot, I don't know, some other, you know, you do sort of a main practice. You usually do some mantra and visualization alongside these Lamrim practices, you know, you need both. It's like we kind of need the, you know, the altar as our inspiration. We need some sort of blessing. And then you meditate on the Lamrim, you know, these different topics. So she said alongside that, she decided she was just going to focus on the 8 freedoms and 10 renunciations, the precious human life. So her whole retreat was like the practice and then reading and studying and reflecting on that meditation. And maybe you could say because of that, she continued doing a 1-month, you know, certainly inspired her to carry on. So she carried on every year and did a 1-month retreat. You know, and a retreat doesn't mean it's not sitting there beating yourself up and being an ascetic, you know. It's actually, ideally we have a lot of joy, you know, there'll be some stuff that comes up, but just having that, you know, she got a lot of joy out of that, you know, because you're also meditating on all these amazing, you know, great things that you have that maybe you didn't realize you had. Any questions? Comments? Anybody not agree? Oh, online, someone? Yes.
Yeah, Venerable Angie, I have a question about practice and
Amanda, hold on.
about
Thank you so much for just double checking a tech issue. Could someone turn up the sound in the room? Please try again, Amanda. We'll see if we can hear you.
okay. Can you hear me, Venerable Angie?
We cannot hear you.
Put it in
No?
the chat. Type out your question.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else here? Claire? Claire, you got a question? No, not. Comment? Comment? Question? Nothing? Anyway, we've got another few.
Amanda's typing, right?
Okay, she's typing.
I have a quick question while Amanda's
Yes,
typing, or just a
great.
comment. Venerable Angie, it's so wonderful that you share also when the loss of your teacher or our teachers go away, how it is challenging for us to stay motivated. And I know that many of our participants here are students of Geshe Sherab, and he's doing his world tour, and then he's going into retreat for 3 years. So it's really wonderful to hear that, what your advice regarding that.
Yes, it really is at that point when the teacher's no longer available. Fortunately, Geshe-la's still here. He'll be available in a few years probably, but then it's the time to practice. Then it's our responsibility to put into practice, And that's where I've just got to. It's like, okay, I need to keep backtracking. Where am I getting the inspiration from? And it really is this teaching on the precious human rebirth. We can't skip that. Oh, I just want to meditate in bodhicitta and emptiness. That's great. We do. We need that too. I want to help others and do. But it's really, in many ways, taking to heart. Again, taking to heart how precious the teachings you've received from Geshe-la. How fortunate you've been to receive all these teachings. And then what do I do with them? Because that's part of your precious human rebirth. Having access to, teachers that really, that's a huge part. Teachers that inspire you. But at some point that changes. So we need to find our inspiration, But taking hold of that inspiration that the teacher's given us, and then trying to, not just at the level of listening, but reflection and meditation. How much deeper? Because that's the best offering to make to the teacher is your spiritual practice. That's the highest offering. Making offerings physically is good. They're all good. But the offering of the practice is what pleases the teacher the most, So as much as we can put in to take to heart our precious human rebirth situation that we have gifted ourselves, try to feel that. Yeah, we have stuff, we have problems, but there's a situational thing that we've created. A situational dharma window that we've created ourselves, from the past. Thank you so much. Checking in with, feeling like we came from somewhere, And so we've not finished the work, but we've done where it's the other analogy is we're halfway up the mountain. That's another analogy for a human rebirth, and that's quite a bit of work. Now, we don't want to slop back down. Ideally, we don't want to fall back down. We want to keep step by step moving up, releasing the karmic baggage, slowly, even little bits. We can do a little bit this life, walk a few steps forward, then we feel happy, Because actually, even as Westerners, it's not easy to feel happy about ourselves. That's a whole other discussion. So actually, we need the precious human rebirth meditation. We need to feel we're part of a continuity that has created this, and that's great. And then rejoicing in what we have right now, being aware of their limitations, but feeling it's only the joy that kind of carries on the spiritual practice. It's not the I'm so bad and poor me and I can't do this and all that. You know, it's like it's a joyous effort. But yeah, we need to chip away at I'm so bad and limited, all that stuff. You know, that's the preliminary work until our sense of self feels more whole, you know, whole and healthy. Then it's like we can absorb the Dharma better, you know, from that the vessel that's not so tainted. Mm-hmm. Yes. What's your name? Lorraine.
Thank you. Lately in my practice, I've been feeling like I need to be actually away from people. I have a tendency to be by myself in the wilderness more than I'm around people. I'm very comfortable there. I don't really feel alone or lonely. I feel like it's necessary. I just have to, I don't know. I'm just wondering if you had any words of wisdom for solitary practice. Thank you.
Well, solitary practice is wonderful if you have the right motivation. But if it's just to get away from folks, I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that either, you know, but one has to, first of all, why, yeah, definitely as humans, we all need some alone time. Absolutely. We can't be around folk all the time. I don't think that's healthy either. Because we're kind of like avoiding ourselves in a situation. We can be. Of course, if you have children and kids and you're in that space of your life, it's not so easy, you know, but we all need some, but generally speaking, even mothers, fathers, I think we all need some time on our own. Some people need more than others. Maybe just because of some other karmic social difficulties, you know, that's okay. But the main reason to go into retreat, to go solitary, is like to develop our mind on the path, you know, so we can work on our mind to be more beneficial when we're out there. So some people might need a lot of time to be in retreat because they're not very beneficial out there, you know. Some of us need you know, or less because we've already developed a bit, so we can be quite beneficial out there. But we all need both. It's just how much, and we need to be honest with ourselves, but try not to have the motivation I need to go into retreat to just get away from folks, because that's not an enlightened motivation. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, why am I going to, okay, I do need a break emotionally, that's okay. But then on top of that, can I develop this motivation? Like I want to take a break because I want to do some inner work. So when I go back, I'm a little bit better with people, a bit softer, a bit kinder, a bit more open, a bit more something. And what practice is going to let me do that? So I'm working when I'm away on some of my limitations and I'm opening up some of my qualities. So when I come back out, I'm better for those people. Does that help? Did we get the question online? And then I guess it's past. We'll do one more question and then.
We have, can't see that one. We have one before. There's two questions actually. One was for, first we'll take the mandala question. The mandala question is a two-part one. Shall we bring our mandala sets next Sunday is one. And where the video people are asking, was that for the ritual mandala or the personal?
Well, it's both. Yeah. So the mandala is the mandala. So whether you offer it a teaching like this formally, or it's the same meditation, it's the same, the reasoning is taking the essence. Of course, if I mean, usually mandalas are offered at sort of high lama teachings, you know, so I feel a bit awkward saying, yeah, you need to bring it for my teaching, you know. Yeah. So if you want to bring your set, but you just offer it to the Buddhas, yeah. You think that. But yeah, it's a wonderful habit to bring your sets. You know, the Kadam masters all brought their sets to teachings. But yeah, I would be more comfortable if you're feeling like you're offering it to the Buddhas. I'm just like a poorer representation of that. But yeah, so you're more than welcome. I mean, I did talk about it, but you also, it gives you a chance to practice. Those of you who did with Geshe Zopa, you know, if you don't practice, you just forget, you know. So I would suggest that. it's very nice to start that habit, that in the center, you know, but again, just as to all the Buddhas, because and taking the essence. So yes, that's that, yeah. Oh yes, I will find that because I know at the centres, you know, it gets a bit, how do we offer all this? So, and also if you want me to do a little class on it, might be easier. So we could maybe organise like half an hour, not, you know, I can talk with Venerable Dundrut, but I'm happy to, while I'm here, if people have questions where, you know, if this is okay, Venerable Dundrut, rituals, or, you know, how you do this when you get like, is Geshe's Opa coming this year? Share, yeah. So Cheryl group, that would be, you know, so to just, you did quite well, but we're not all the way there yet. But it's good that you practiced on me.
And I find that we have so many great helpers here, but it's always better if people do it in person, if people actually do it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that's
so
why
we can maybe
yeah.
organise a time to practice that together for those who are interested to do that. And maybe, and I can also send the video, but it's always nice if you're like, this is how we do it. And so we have like at least 3-4 people who are like, how do you do it?
Yeah, we
I've got
probably
under
need
my belt.
and then the question, Amanda, thank you so much for your question. This is from Amanda. This is a question about practice. It's about practice and bodhicitta. In Migsema, it says, Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of non-objectifying compassion. Could you explain what non-objectifying compassion means in this context?
Well, I mean, my understanding, I think there's more than I can offer, but I'll just offer a couple of points, and I'm sure the other monastics could probably offer more than me. But well, I mean, they don't objectify, they don't like different. I think it's partly, first of all, it's combined with the wisdom realizing emptiness, you know, so there's not a sense of, yeah, maybe that's not coming to the right view. I think just a simple way, at least it means we're not like, oh, I like you better than this one. There's a complete equanimity, you know. They don't objectify between this being and that being and this one. And, you know, like this one, I don't like, oh, maybe I'll help it. There's none of that, you know, it's like completely pure. Every being in that mind is precious, you know. There's the compassion goes simultaneously. That's the nature of it. I mean, you think about that. This is what we can achieve with our precious human rebirth. We can achieve quite high spiritual insights, you know, it's just about a matter of putting the effort. That's all it is, you know, it's just effort. The Buddha was one time like us, just ordinary. But we're still here because we still need to put the effort, you know. So they're not, definitely my understanding of objectifying is it's like a simultaneous that goes out to all sentient beings. Doesn't matter what realm, what capacity you're at mentally, it doesn't objectify between different beings. So that's one. I think there's more depth, but we'll just say that.
And Amanda, thumbs up. Okay. And then lastly, there's a class tomorrow.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Could you please
So
let
I
us
actually
know?
just wanted to mention briefly, and then we'll do a dedication. So maybe we could get the dedication up while I'm doing that. So we're doing 2 weeks, possibly 3, but we're starting with 2, of Tara practice. So no, Mary, you lead 1 a month. Is that right? Yes. Yeah. Anyway, we're just doing it a wee bit more focused because, and actually, it's in some way it's very good timing because I noticed that you, Venerable Dundrut mentioned that Geshe Sherab said to do Tara practice. Kopan said. And what was the Tara practice for? Yeah, okay. Perfect, yes. So, yeah. So that's what I thought. Well, that's perfect, you know. So what we're going to do is we'll do 2 weeks, possibly 3, see what momentum we get. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's at 11:30 or 12:30 to 1:30. And we'll do here in person or online. And it'll be Tara practice, and we'll finish with a couple of Tara praises as well. So we'll do some, you know, go through the sadhana and the mantra, and you know, of course, getting a sense of tantric practice. And again, you already, it's wonderful. You do like the evening Vajrasattva practice. You do the Tara. We do pujas. We do many things here. But it's I think it seems like it's perfect timing to dedicate this time to Tara practice and mantra, to create the condition for Rinpoche. I mean, how fortunate would you be if Cheryl Rinpoche came, you know? So I met Rinpoche when he was 5 or 6 running around Kopan Monastery. He had these really big, bright cheeks. It was so cute. It's like, oh, it was like his robes were like half off and dirty half the time, and he's running around and just hanging out, spending time with Westerners, because it was before he started his formal study. So they usually have a year or two where they're still playing, So he was running around Copan, and I remember the last day, I was doing a lot of retreat then. I was trying to do my preliminary praxis. And I was about to leave to come to the States for my first time. And that was when I actually left the East, because I'd been there for 3 years. And I was about to leave to come to the States, and little did I know I was going to end up in the States, for the next 20 plus years. But I was coming to do a 3-month retreat with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. There was going to be a big one with many people. And Rinpoche was always running. I didn't really hang out with him because I was in retreat. But then a couple of days I was packing all my things, and he came in my room. Somehow he came around me, and I thought, this is interesting. He's hanging out with me today, and I wasn't in retreat. And so we sat, and so he came into my room, and he's drawing, this helicopter. It was just a fun. He was about 5 at this time. And I said, well, Rinpoche, what's that? He says, well, I'm going to go and study in the monastery, and then I'm going to go to the West and teach. That's what he said at 5, And I was like, okay, great, Rinpoche, that's wonderful. I was like, great, that's so good. And then I remember I had these mani pills. They're really brown. Some of you know what they are, really brown small pills that get blessed by His Holiness. And we take them for healing and spiritual sort of, inspiration, to bless all the sort of subtle parts of ourselves. And I lost one on this, like we had these grass mats. Copan was very simple in those days. So you just had these sort of grass rugs, like dry grass, So I dropped one in there, and of course it's already a brownie. I was like, there's no way I'm going to find it. He just went, picked it up. I was like, whoa, this mine's really clear. So wouldn't that be nice for my next life? So also like when we think of masters who've come for the previous life, last year I went on pilgrimage with Rinpoche. We all went up to Laudo together, me, myself, and Venerable Sarah and Rinpoche took 25 people up to Laudo. And so I was very lucky to sort of reconnect with him and spend some time with him. So I think you'd be very fortunate. So we do need to do some Tara practices. That's in the past, when we had lamas come to the Bay Area, we often had to do Tara pujas and everything to remove obstacles for these high lamas to come. And especially at the time in visas and all this stuff's not so easy, So if you have the inclination or ability or, to be able to come and join or join online, please, we'll love to have you. So that'll be the next 2 weeks. All right. So we'll do dedications. Lama Sangye Drgyurne Drova Chigyama Lupa Deye Sala Gobar Shui Janju Sencho Rinpoche Mage Pana Gyurshi Geba Nyampa Mebaya Gone Gondu Belwasho. So and I was taking the last few seconds just to dedicate in your own way, whatever you want to dedicate for, and seeing if you can take some essence away with you, something holding in the mind from the talk today. Okay, thanks so much.